Hello and welcome to another Typical Boro podcast. As always, I'm your host, Steve Dixon. Before I introduce the panel, can I just ask you all, listeners, people who are watching the podcast, could you keep subscribing to the podcast? We're doing brilliantly this season. Numbers are flying in views, in people watching on YouTube. But if you're enjoying it and you watch every week, please just take a minute. It's free. Just click on and subscribe to the podcast. It helps us massively. So, onto the panel. As always, I'm pleased to be joined by Mr. Graham Bandera, fresh from another trophy win this week. Best Editorial Cartoon at the Professional Cartoonists Organisation Award 2025.
So you did well to get that right.
I did. Well played, sir.
Even
Brilliant.
I can't remember what it is, to be fair. But yeah, happy to put another trophy in the cabinet, so to speak. So yeah.
Well done, mate.
Happy days.
Brilliant.
Thank
There he is. You've heard his dulcet tones. It's the Callum Britton enthusiast,
Hey.
Mr. John Cutler. Welcome, John.
Morning. We all right, chaps?
Morning, Cuts. Very
All
good.
right.
And we'll have the man in the know from the Gazette.
Hey.
He's back, the transfer guru. It's Mr. Craig Johns. Welcome back to the podcast, Craig.
Morning, fellas. How we doing?
Morning, Craig.
Morning, Craig. Right, we'll get into what's been another brilliant week for Middlesbrough fans. Middlesbrough 1, Norwich 0. Hayden Hackney, 17th minute screamer, was enough to get Boro the 3 points and put us joint top of the championship. Yes, we are now joint top of the championship. The team yesterday, which we discussed in the fan zone cuts, was Sol Bryn, back four, Callum Britton back in the team, Luke Ayling, Malanda, Matt Targett, left back, Brown, Morris and Hackney in the midfield, with Whittaker and McGree, who was back in the team, flanking Tommy Conway. So we discussed in the fan zone cuts, strong starting 11.
Oh, massively. I think arguably our strongest 11 at the moment. We discussed last week whether Britain would come back in. The manager made that decision. Riley was in for Castledine, who's got a bit of a knock. But yeah, on paper that team looked amazing, to be fair.
Craig, Cuts has just mentioned Leo Castledine. What was the latest on him after the match yesterday?
Yeah, we asked Kim Hellberg after the game, and he said, typically doesn't give too much away on injuries, but he just said he got a small knock in training, doesn't expect it to be anything serious. He couldn't make the squad yesterday, but hopefully won't be anything long term. But that's about as much as you can get out of him on injuries. So fingers crossed, nothing too bad.
That's good. Graham, I'll bring you in on the first half. It was an absolute bouncing Riverside Stadium yesterday, and it was a really good first half to watch. Some excellent football by the Boro.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought, if you could compare that to a boxing match, really, a proper 12-round slog. But both teams going at each other. Two good teams in form, both teams with momentum. So they were definitely not coming to get a point off us. They were coming to beat us, and you've got to give them credit. They're arguably one of the best teams I've seen at the Riverside in a good few years, to be honest. Coventry were decent. They blew us away in 15 minutes and we came back at them. Norwich had a proper go at us, getting the ball wide to Diallo and Ahmed and pinging the ball in as quick as they can to the striker, Makama, who was absolutely brilliant on the day. And he gave Adilson, Malanda, Ayling a bit of a runaround at times. Once we got to grips with him and we got a foothold in the game, we started to look very, very enterprising. And then, obviously, a game like that, which is so tense and so fraught, was always going to be settled with a moment of magic. And Hackney's strike, dear me, what a goal. Took it on his back foot, on his left foot, managed to switch it quickly and shift it, saw the opening and just pinged it. Like the perfect golf shot almost, it just arrowed top corner, and we're right behind it at the north stand, and it was just an electric moment. Gave everybody a lift. Brilliant. Serious limbs, as they say.
Cuts, thoughts on Hayden Hackney's rocket?
Great goal, wasn't he? And he had a fantastic game, to be fair. We say it quite often, it makes the fact that they accepted a £20 million bid earlier in the season. We questioned it at the time, thought it was crazy. Certainly crazy now, because he's worth at least another half of that. What a goal. What a performance, to be fair. And his interview afterwards where he says that it's his dream to take this club to the Premier League, I think that shuts down any possibility of him going tomorrow. He's vital He's a vital cog in Kim's machine.
I would go as far to say yesterday was Hayden Hackney's best performance this season. I thought he was outstanding, and it was a notable tweak, I thought, in the tactics. Every time Hackney got the ball on the half turn, he seemed to drive at the Norwich back four. He was, I don't know whether it was because Brown was there to help in the midfield, covering and, working around with Morris. But Hackney just seemed to have a little bit more freedom yesterday, and he's got that talent which I think only real top quality players in the Premier League and international football have in the midfield that can take it on the half turn and drive at the opposition back four, because most players are sideways, backwards, keeping the ball. But Hackney's got that little bit of, superior talent, shall we say, to take the ball on the half turn. It was just a great performance by Hayden Hackney. I thought Norwich struggled with him all afternoon, and he drove Middlesbrough onto the victory. And then to top it off with, what was one of the best goals we've seen at the Riverside for many a year. He was just spot on. And, I'll come to Craig. It was nice to hear after the game what Cuts has just said there about Hackney saying it's his dream to get promotion with Middlesbrough and stay with Middlesbrough, because, if anything, yesterday's performance is enhanced his reputation for other clubs watching, hasn't it?
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, to be honest, when I dashed down. There's always to give an insight into how it works after a home game. They allow Tees get a player, and they allow one member of the written media to kind of go down there and also jumping off the back of Tees' interview, and it was me yesterday, and I got down there and I was pleasantly surprised to see it was Hackney, to be honest, because it tends to be a club, any club, not just Middlesbrough, but if you've got a player like that who doubt possibly over his future and things like that, interest from Premier League, you'd probably keep them away from the media. That's how it works these days. So it was a pleasant surprise to see him there, and once he is there, you've got to ask the question, haven't you? And asked him about the season and kind of teeing him up slowly for it, dreaming of winning promotion, etc. And once he gave us that line, it was a case of, so can I take from your answer there, you won't be going anywhere before Monday's deadline? And it was a big smile on his face, and no, I'm loving it here. So I think he was quite unequivocal, really, that he's not going anywhere, certainly in this window. I think obviously we all appreciate if Middlesbrough don't get up in the summer, then unfortunately 12 months left on his contract, I think his exit will be inevitable. But fingers crossed, the way they're going at the minute, I think you felt in the Riverside yesterday, everybody is starting to really believe now this is a fantastic opportunity. This is a very good team as well, and promotion could genuinely be on.
Yeah, totally agree. Cuts, I'll come to you on the second half as well. I thought it was interesting that, Kim Hellberg showed what a good manager he is. And, in the past, we've complained about Michael Carrick not having a plan B or a plan C. Well, Kim Hellberg has shown that he does have a plan B and a plan C. And again, yesterday, he showed what he can do. Second half, there was 4 changes. Alex Gilbert come on for McGree. Dale Fry come on for Callum Britton, Strelets come on for Whittaker, Sarmiento come on for a cameo later on for Tommy Conway. But the way Middlesbrough played first half, as good as it was, and fast flowing and quick counter-attacking football and quick passing, shots on goal, crosses in, second half was a lot different, and he almost tweaked it to I would say a 5-3-2. However, Bandy might tell me it's a 3-5-2. But it was certainly more defensive and rigid, and Dale Fry coming in to do a solid job and shore things up at the back.
Yeah, I think you say it's a bit more defensive and rigid. We might have an extra defender in there, but we still play some good attacking football and create chances. I think it shows the confidence he's got in the players we've got off the bench. We've had a massive injury crisis the last month, 2 months. The squad's starting to look a lot stronger. The bench certainly is. So we've got options. And one of the subs he brought on there, Dale, made an absolute amazing recovery right near the end, which could earn us a vital 2 points come the end of the season. So, yeah, the squad's looking good. The bench is looking good. And the manager everything he's doing is working out exactly right.
Bandy Cuts has just knocked the nail on the head there regarding Dale Fry. That's not the first time he's done that. He done the same at Stoke when he came on with a huge block at Stoke to win with the 3 points as well. What an option off the bench to have in Dale Fry.
Incredible, mate. He's just got that physical presence. He's a Teesside lad. Every fan rallies round him, and that's what we expect of him. He's that type of character, and he throws his body on the line. I don't know how he's got to that yesterday, to be honest, because he was just ready to tap it in. Obviously, Bryn was a bit hesitant. It was a bit of a mix-up, and then he's just read the play beautifully and just got a leg across in the nick of time. Their defender did something similar where Whittaker was sizing up for a left-footed shot to ping it in the bottom corner, and he's come in with a brilliant slide tackle. So there was some wonderful defensive capabilities on show yesterday from both teams. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. It was a pulsating encounter. I just mentioned about Hellberg in terms of the way he deals with players. Hackney spoke yesterday to BBC Tees, and he mentioned about how Hellberg sees him in the team. He's obviously having dialogue with Hackney and saying, how am I going to get the best out of you? So there's no ego there with the manager. He's there to pick a team and to get the best out of his players. And Hackney almost implied that instead of playing horizontal, as in two together with him and Morris, I know it was a 3 yesterday with Brownie, but he wants Hackney to play more vertical, actually through the middle of the park. And it mentioned, you spoke brilliantly, Dicko, about Hackney almost slaloming his way through players. You know, he's going past 3 or 4 players at times, and he's winning us free kicks in dangerous areas as well. And it's so good to watch. Brilliant. But yeah, just back to Hellberg, the way he has this familiarity with his players. And obviously Britain came back yesterday, so you're thinking, this is interesting. You can't really drop Ayling, and you can't really drop Brown. So he's found a way to put our 2 most, I'd say, pivotal players at the moment, obviously Hackney as well, to keep them in the team. And we need players like that in the team. So we have Britain in the team, Brown in the team, and Ayling on that right-hand side. It's a force to be reckoned with.
Craig, go on, Cuts, come in first.
I was just going to say, we can sit here and talk about Hackney and how good he was. I think you've got to mention an unsung hero yesterday, because I thought Morris, and I think he has been for the last few weeks, was absolutely outstanding yesterday. Covered every blade of grass. His passing was fantastic. All right, there might be not the ones that are going to get on highlight reels, but as a fan, I loved his performance yesterday. I thought he was outstanding.
He had a good game.
Yeah,
on,
just
Craig.
picking up on that as well. I think, to be fair to Morris, I mean, the goal from Hackney is superb, but it all comes from Morris's press. You know, I mean, he, as Cut said, he covered every blade yesterday. He was right. He was at times in Middlesbrough's own box, getting the ball from goal kicks and things like that, and always wanting to, set the tone and dictate the tempo. But then when Norwich had the ball, he was the one pressing higher than anyone else, forces the error, and without that, the ball never finds Hayden Hackney for him to produce that superb finish. So yeah, he was. Like, I think Cuts is spot on, a bit of an unsung hero yesterday.
Craig,
Did I hear a seagull then?
They must have found the way here from the Riverside yesterday.
I heard a seagull as well. I was thinking, I feel like I was sitting at the match in the North Stand again. I mean,
I was hoping them seagulls had picked up their striker and took him back to Norwich. I was getting worried.
I spoke to somebody after the game about the seagulls, actually, because that's the most I've ever seen at the Riverside. But apparently, Craig, from being from Wearside, might be able to sort of pick me up on this. Is it true, Craig, that the seagulls now are frightened to land in Sunderland for some reason or other?
No comment.
Following the trawler. Oh, I thought it was in one of them Alfred Hitchcock films, second half.
Before I get in trouble, we'll move on. I was going to bring Craig up on the main point in the second half. Craig, with talking point was Tommy Conway threw on goal 1-1 with 1-on-1 with Vladan Kosovic, the Norwich goalkeeper, and he knocks it past him, and deliberately the goalkeeper takes Tommy Conway out. Was it a red card for you, Craig?
Yeah, I think so. I think ultimately, he knocks that ball past the keeper. He's not knocked it too far. He's going to get on the end of it. And I think what the referee is saying is the covering defender, and that's why he's only given the yellow. But if you go back to see Preston last week, they beat the last man pulls him down. He's still got a goalkeeper to beat. He's the last man in terms of the last defender, but then there's still a goalkeeper to beat. But that's a last man challenge, a last man foul. It's a red card. So in that sense, the goalkeepers took him out. There's still a defender to beat, but if anything, the defender's easier to beat than the goalkeeper, because the goalkeeper could still make a save, but it's still a red card because it's the last man. For me, that's a goal-scoring opportunity, a serious goal-scoring opportunity. That's a red card. I can't understand. I mean, the referee, I think he was shocking yesterday. It felt like he was given so much against Boro, and yet their boss said he was given so much against them, and he ended up getting booked. It was, he was.
I think you're right, Craig. He was
bonkers
garbage.
decisions. The one
Did you
there was
see the
one
video footage, Craig, of him? Did you see the video footage of him, Craig, before the game in the tunnel, keeping
in
the
the
ball up
tunnel
before the
keeping
game?
the ball up. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see that. Yeah,
I thought,
yeah. I mean,
as
there
soon
was
as you see
one.
something like that, you think the referee thinks, let's make the game about me rather than the
Right,
players,
yeah.
don't you?
Exactly, Dicko. Spot on,
Yeah.
pal.
There was one. I mean, the red card is obviously the big one, the one you'll discuss. But there was one. Hackney plays it inside. I can't remember who he played it inside there now. But then he kind of runs off to receive the next pass, and the defender just steps in his way, makes no attempt to. He's nowhere near the ball. He's just clearly stepping across Hackney to stop him making that run. Hackney obviously hits him, goes down, and he gives the free kick to Norwich.
That's right,
What
yeah.
on earth?
It was a marauding run, Craig, on that east stand side.
That's
I
right.
remember
Yeah.
it, remember it distinctively. 'Cause again, talking about him slaloming his way through, he'd gone past a couple of players, played the 1-2, went back for the wall pass, and he'd obviously got obstructed. Yeah, and he crazy.
He was on his knees in desperation, wasn't he, Hackney, at
Yeah,
the time? He
that's right,
couldn't,
yeah.
he couldn't believe it.
He couldn't believe how bad the referee was.
So I thought yesterday, just going to bring it up, because it needs mentioning the supporters yesterday, Craig. I think that's the loudest I've heard the Riverside in quite some time, and certainly this season. And I think what's really important is we've seemed to have this chemistry now between, which was started with Rob Edwards, but it's continued on and went up a notch, I think, with Kim Hellberg. And I'm just going to read a quote on Hellberg after the match, because I thought this was absolutely fantastic. Kim Hellberg said after the game, "I think the supporters were really understanding that maybe we didn't have our best day on the ball in the second half. They understood that we need to fight, and we did it together. I didn't recognise any disappointment when someone did something that didn't really come off. As human beings, you always can feel a disappointment, but it was more a case of keep fighting, keep helping each other, and keep fighting for every ball and give energy. That working together with the supporters, from the players, from every supporter here, I think that was an unbelievable performance together. You could see it in the players. They were fighting for every millimetre of grass, for the shirt, for the team, for the fans, and for the teammates." He gets it, doesn't he, Craig?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you spot on when you said it's the loudest the Riverside's been for a long time. It was absolutely superb yesterday. There was a moment, I want to say it was around 70 odd minutes in the game, and I think that ushered the ball out for a goal kick or something along them lines. And like Earlin kind of started pumping up the crowd, and the noise, the response to that, like all four sides. Like you always get the noise from the south stand, don't you? And then there's that pocket at the top of the north as well who try to make the noise, but all four stands yesterday, the minute Earlin pumped everyone up, everyone just recognised straight away, we've got a part to play here. We need to help them as much as they're, giving everything on the pitch. And, from that moment on, really, for the last 10 minutes or so, Norwich were obviously going to push everything at it. They were going to try and throw everything to get that equaliser. But the noise around the Riverside, the backing that the fans gave, and it's cliche to say the 12th man, but it absolutely plays a part. You can see the players reacting to that. You can see, the players getting that little extra lift from that in a game like that when it's tough, when you have to, dig down on the gum shield. That noise, that energy that the crowd can bring, it absolutely makes a difference.
16 there yesterday, a really good attendance. If we have that at home for the rest of the season, I can't see Middlesbrough dropping too many points, can you?
No, absolutely not. I think yesterday, for me, epitomises everything that I love about this football club. So it's not the 4-0 wins. I left yesterday's game feeling more elated than I did in the previous two 4-0 home wins. The fans and the players coming together, you can sense that something special's happening. The players obviously believe it. The manager does. They're saying all the right things in the press about the fans and the players coming together. Now, if you look at X and Coventry's fan situation at the moment, it's unbelievable. You would never believe that they're top. I think the difference in the belief between the two clubs at the moment is massive. And Ipswich again. Everything seems to be going in our favour at the moment. Let's hope it continues. Let's get as fans, we can only get behind the players as much as we can. But I couldn't have asked anything more from them players yesterday. It was fantastic.
Graham, I bring you in. Superb support yesterday.
The magical moment, like Craig and Cuts eloquently put. Craig mentioned 70 minutes. It was around that time, and there was just a huge sort of galvanisation throughout the stadium. Noise reverberating around. Ayling helped a little bit by sort of laying on the ball and laughing to the West Stand law, and more classic housery from him. That gets people going, and the tackles were flying in. They were giving as good as we got. So yeah, it was just a brilliant ending to the game. Pulsating, nervous, exciting, exhilarating, all them words, all them emotions that Hellberg's mentioned that he went through as well. Should mention it's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Kim Hellberg. So yeah, what a birthday present for him, eh? But he did say that last 5 minutes was hell.
All Ayling needed yesterday was his pom-poms, wasn't
Well, he is. He's the classic cheerleader,
Brilliant.
but he's done that throughout his career. And I always say, I'm his number one fan. We need him in that squad, whether or not he's playing. We need him around that squad. He's good for the younger players coming through as well. He's just an infectious character, absolute class act. Hope in later life he goes on to be a fantastic coach or even a manager. You just never know. But at the moment, we've got him, and he's doing us proud.
I think someone else who deserves a mention quickly yesterday, being out for over a month, Britain for 65, 70 minutes, whatever it was he lasted. Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. He was, though, wasn't he?
You can't not mention him, Cuts.
Man crush continues. The man
It's like
crush.
he'd never been injured.
I was just going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like he hadn't missed a beat.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. There's no one better in this league than him at right back. And amazing.
Can we mention Alan Brown again? Because he played the whole right-hand side yesterday, every single position. He filled in at right back once when Callum went marauding. He filled in as an 8, and then he filled in as a 10. And then even Conway dropped back into Brown's position. So talking about flexibility, Craig will probably allude to it, how good Hellberg is in terms of putting players in uncomfortable situations, but knowing that they can actually deal with it. He wouldn't hang players out to dry, but he's confident in the players that he's got.
Shows how good Alan Brown is. He must be the first lone player in history to have 2 songs.
We'll not get you to sing the song, Cuts. We'll get in trouble.
Everyone knows it.
Craig, just to finish on your man of the match yesterday.
It was Hayden Hackney for me, without a doubt. I thought it was one of them games where you just looked and thought, that is a star. Like, so, you've all mentioned the runs, the driving runs that he makes. When he runs in like that, past players with the ball at his feet, he's gliding across that turf. He just looks like a star.
That's 2 votes for me. Cuts and Bandy disagree, or would you go with Hackney?
Hackney all day long. He looked like a Champions League player yesterday. He was that good, in my opinion. I thought he was absolutely class. Ran the show. And you see comments on social media regarding, opposition fans, and they're all saying as well, wow, what a player he is. So, yeah, it's no coincidence he performs like that pretty much every week, but yesterday he just tipped the balance in terms of just taking it up a notch and getting us home. And to score a goal like that, arguably, well, I said the goal at West Brom was goal of the season, but I think Hackney eclipsed that one yesterday with that strike. It was just stunning.
Absolutely. Cuts?
Yeah, it's Hayden for me. And I think an interesting thing, if you listen to Maddo on Tees, the way he eulogises about Hayden Hackney. Now, he's played against some top players, and he's played with some real top players. And the way he talks about him, it tells you everything you need to know.
Maddo knows a player.
Right, guys. Cuts, Bandy, you can sit back and get the cigars out because it's transfer time. And there's one man. There's one man on the screen I'm coming for. So, Craig, transfer deadline day shuts tomorrow. Lots going on behind the scenes in terms of both ins and outs. I'm going to come at you with some names and updates from yourself, if you can fill the Boro fans in. I'm going to start with Matt Targett, because it come out yesterday at Eddie Howe's press conference after the Liverpool game that they're still considering recalling him.
Yeah, they were interesting comments, to be fair, because I think my kind of expectation, I guess, is that, providing that coming through the Liverpool game, Newcastle don't get any injuries, which from what I kind of half observed, I don't think they did come out with any defensive injuries, then they'd be leaving Matt Targett at Middlesbrough. And I guess from Boro's perspective, they want to know now, ideally today, because if he is being recalled, then tomorrow they need to work on getting a new left back in, and they do have kind of some backup options, if you like, if it should that happen. But Matt Targett has made absolutely clear he wants to stay at Middlesbrough. He wants to see the season out. He wants to win promotion at Boro. He doesn't want to go to Newcastle, where for the majority of the second half of the season he'll probably sit on the bench, and then he's out of contract in the summer. So he's made that clear, and Eddie Howe has said in the past that he appreciates that, he respects that, and ideally he wants to respect that and let Matt Targett be where he wants to be. Now, I completely appreciate from Newcastle's point of view, they've had bad defensive injuries, and you have to protect yourself above all else. But Lewis Hall is back playing now. Dan Burns back, and he can cover at left back, and then they've got his name eludes me, but they've got a young left back who came on late as well yesterday. So, from my expectation really is that, there doesn't seem a need or a reason for Newcastle to recall him now, whether or not he just said that because, they'll probably be back into the Newcastle kind of assessing everything, making sure there's no kind of serious knocks or bumps and bruises coming out of the game. Naturally, sometimes things show up a day later, but I think all being well, I think as long as everyone came out of that Newcastle game last night at Liverpool without anything serious, then I would expect Matt Targett to still be a Middlesbrough player come Tuesday morning.
That's what I want to hear. Second player I'll bring up is Sverre Pan going to be a Middlesbrough player come tomorrow night?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, there's nothing Middlesbrough can do about it. Ultimately, the decision is completely in Man City's hands. The recall clause is in their favour. I don't think there'd be too many complaints on the Middlesbrough side if Man City did decide to recall. The interesting aspect of that, and I didn't know this until one of my colleagues at the Manchester Evening News wrote this the other day, is that because of the homegrown quotas, if he goes back to Man City, he won't actually be able to play. Now, I mean, you wouldn't realistically expect him to get into that Man City first team anyway, but if he were to go back, he'd essentially be able to play under 21 football, but then they are, by all accounts, considering that actually it might be just valuable for him to go back and train with the first team, train with Pep Guardiola, train with all their first team stars and kind of gain experience from that. So that's their consideration at the moment, but also, if they could get an alternative loan, I suspect they'd still want him to be in England, because that's, that was the point of the Middlesbrough loan. There was some very good European clubs who wanted him in the summer. They chose Middlesbrough because they wanted him to experience English football. It hasn't worked out. I think that's fair to say. Probably too soon. I think there's been flashes of a potential quality player there. I remember quite early on that little dizzying run that he made at Preston to set up, was it Alan Brown's goal he set up? I can't remember, but
Hansen, I think
Target.
it was. No,
Was it
it
Hansen? Hansen's
Hansen.
volley, yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry. Brown tried to claim it, didn't he? I remember speaking to Brown after that game, and he was adamant he touched that ball, but it was, that's right. So there was flashes, but it just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. And, he looks a little lightweight for the Championship at the moment. And realistically, now you've brought in Castledine, you've brought in Sarmiento, his game time is going to be really limited in the second half of the season. Kim Hellberg's been clear. They'll treat him like they treat every other player. If he trades hard and he earns his opportunity and then he gets in the team and takes it, he will get, his chance, the same as any other player. But I think realistically, he's well down the pecking order now. And, it's no secret Middlesbrough need at least one player off that 25-man registration list now. So, if Nepan was to be recalled by Man City, I don't think there'd be any complaints on the Boro end.
Craig, an exciting one, the exciting link anyway, was Hamburg striker, 24-year-old Ransford Yeboah Koningsdorfer. Now, have
you been up all night learning that name?
I'm glad you pronounced it.
Producer Sophie can speak fluent German, so I did check with her to get my pronunciation right. So yeah, that's what I've been told. Ransford Yeboah Koningsdorfer is his name. So, is there any truth in the link with this player?
So he's a player that Middlesbrough have certainly inquired about. I think, as I wrote about a week ago now, that Middlesbrough had been, they had a few striker targets coming into the window, and they've been trying them and ultimately getting knocked back. And I think he was one of them. He's got 6 months left on his contract. Clearly a player that they've scouted a lot and do like. So coming into January, they felt with 6 months left on his contract, there'd be an opportunity there. But Hamburger in a relegation fight in Bundesliga, he's quite an important player, even if he has only scored 1 goal this season. So
that's what I was going to say, Craig. Last season they got promoted, Hamburg, and he got 14 goals and 32 starts. But this season in the Bundesliga 1, he's only got 1 goal in 19 games.
Yeah, so I can't say I watched their games to know, what kind of player he is, or even why he's so important to their team. But that's the message, is that he is important. I mean, you look at Tommy Conway here, for example. I know he scored 3 and 2 recently, but even when he wasn't scoring goals, he still felt like such an important player in Middlesbrough's team. I think when he came out of the team, you appreciated how much he did for the team and how he made others, he helped the team and made the team better by being there. So, without watching Hamburg a lot, and is that debated on this pod by any chance?
Dickles just sat there.
I'm just bringing Cuts in. What do you think, Cuts, my face would be like if we had 2 Tommy Conways?
Well, we'd be promoted. If we had 2 Tommy Conways, we'd be promoted by now.
It's just sign somebody who's going to score goals, which brings us to our next name, Craig. What's the latest on Adam Armstrong? Because there's a player that does guarantee you goals at the Championship.
Yeah, so from that one, I think that's been a case of, the agent kind of getting wind that Middlesbrough want a striker, need a striker, and by all accounts, he's keen to move closer to home. So the agent's got onto Boro, as I said, trying desperately to sign a striker and having no luck with the kind of initial targets that they set out coming into the window. Always open to anything, and this stage in a transfer window, these kind of things pop up. The agents obviously got in touch, suggested there could be a deal to do, and so Middlesbrough will explore it if it's a possibility. Interestingly, not involved in the Southampton squad at all yesterday. Their manager, I think he said he had a knock, which funny players like that always get a knock at these times of year, don't they? But yeah, potentially a deal to do. The problem is, I think, Middlesbrough are not going to be spending. I think I've seen figures around 8 to 15 million bandied about. Middlesbrough are not going to be spending that right now on Adam Armstrong. If there's a deal to be done where it's incentivised, maybe so much up front, so much on promotion, or a loan with an obligation if promotion's won, then yeah, I think they'd potentially do that. But will Southampton do that? He's their captain. He scored 11 goals this season. He plays week in, week out for them. So are you going to give him away? I don't think so, and that's why I'm not overly optimistic. But it's definitely one that Middlesbrough are in talks to try and see if there's a deal there to be done.
So, if you're being honest, Craig, if I was putting you on the spot now, do you see Adam Armstrong walking through the door at Rockcliffe tomorrow or not?
I'm not overly optimistic, no.
His strike partner Cameron Archer, anything in that, or is he off the Rangers?
Yeah, I saw the Rangers speculation again. Another one who was, interestingly absent yesterday for Southampton. I haven't heard anything on the Middlesbrough front, but yeah, again, I suspect if it comes down to a case where Southampton say we're keeping Armstrong but Archer's available, because they're obviously going to be in talks with Southampton, they're going to be having those conversations, then it's an interesting one. Again, if there's a deal there to be done and Archer hasn't already made his mind up to go to Rangers, then yeah, I suspect Middlesbrough want a striker, and if the deal's right, then I suspect they would have a go at getting Archer in.
In the last sort of transfer watch for Craig is on the out, players leaving the club. Do you expect Senny Dieng, Son Johansson, Mika Hamilton to still be Middlesbrough players come tomorrow night?
I think on all three, they'd certainly, accept offers if they came in. They need offers to come in to get them out ultimately. I think Senny Dieng's one where Hull had come in for him. They can't obviously pay money for a player because of their embargo, but Middlesbrough were happy to let Dieng go. I think it's clear now they want rid of Dieng. They want him gone, and Hull had kind of offered him a deal and said that's what we're going to give you. He's got 18 months left on his Boro contract, and it wasn't as much as he's currently getting at Boro. And he basically said, if I'm going to Hull, I want you to pay the rest of, I want you to make up the difference between what Hull are going to pay me and what I'm currently getting now for the next 18 months. And for now, Middlesbrough have said absolutely not. So that's why Hull's kind of, I don't know if it's fallen through. That could be, that could be one that still happens tomorrow. But for the time being, it doesn't seem like it's on. And Dieng at the moment seems like he's going to be happy to sit around for 18 months and earn his money. Which, in some respect, that's up to him. The club give him a contract and they ultimately have to honour that. But that's the situation on Dieng. On Hamilton, again, I think not even in the squad yesterday. He's well down the pecking order. Options at that end of the pitch are very good, and it seems unlikely that Hamilton's going to get much, if any, football in the second half of this season. So if they could find a move for him, I think they definitely would. And then, was Nepan the last one, sorry, that you asked about?
No, it was Sancho Hansen.
Hansen.
Sorry. Yeah, we've already discussed Nepan. Hansen, again, another one where I think it hasn't quite worked out for him yet. He's not kind of proved to be the player they hoped he would be so far. And again, if the right offer came in, they would accept it, but it's about there being the right offer. They need someone off the list. Even if they don't sign anyone, they need one off the list, because they came into the window with a 25-man squad, which is the maximum you can have. They've taken Bergzog off that with his loan to Bristol City, but they need to register Malander and Sarmiento, so someone's got to come off. And if you did go and sign a striker, then two players have got to come off. I think even if he doesn't leave, you could potentially deregister Seny Dieng, because clearly he's not going to play. Lenihan, there's question marks about whether he will play again this season, so potentially he could be deregistered. But realistically, you'd rather not do that, because you're then ultimately playing a peer for 6 months to sit and do nothing. Yes, the training, but they'll never be involved, because if they're not on that squad list, they can't be involved. So you don't want to be paying a player to sit there and do nothing. But essentially, even if you left Dieng on the squad list, that's what he's going to be doing, isn't he? So it's what he's done all season. So yeah, ideally you want to get some players out and cut the wage bill.
Cut.
Just a quick one on Dieng thing, Craig. When he was initially linked with Hull, it was obviously in August time, wasn't it, in the last transfer window, and they weren't probably seen as a direct rival. Now they're one place below us. Will that alter the club's thinking of possibly letting Dieng go on and strengthening a direct rival?
No, I don't think so. I mean, interestingly, I think if he went to Hull, I don't think he'd even be their first choice, because they have Ivor Pandor, don't they? He's quite a good keeper. I wouldn't expect Dieng to be going there to be their first choice anyway. But I think ultimately, from Boro's perspective, it's a case of they want that wage off the bill. I think you look at, for example, I know in the summer there was a lot of talk around Neto Borges and should we have let him go to Bristol City? Could we have done with having him around and being cover? But ultimately, in loaning Borges to Bristol City, that saved Middlesbrough £2 million in the wages that Bristol City are now paying instead of Boro. And you've got to have those considerations from a club perspective as well, in terms of, it's all well and good having all these good players, and you want to sign good players, etc. But when players are coming in, you need to get the players out as well, because you need to try and balance the books as well as you can. So I don't think there'd be any concern in that respect. I think they'd just like Dieng off the wage bill.
Slight concern for me, Craig, regarding Seny Dieng is if Seny Dieng goes and something happens to Sol Bryn, we're left with 38-year-old John McLaughlin for a potential promotion run-in.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was speaking to somebody about that myself yesterday, and it's an interesting one. McLaughlin, I remember watching him years ago when I covered Sunderland, and he was a steady enough goalkeeper then, but by no means superb. And now, as you see, he's 38-year-old and probably played one game in the last 2 or 3 years. That would be an interesting, thing. Could he handle it? I mean, the good thing, touch wood, is Middlesbrough don't tend to concede too many chances. They're very good defensively, but Bryn does now and then have to come up with some big saves. And could McLaughlin do that if he was needed? I'm not sure, but obviously the club, we haven't seen him the club see him every day in, day out in training, and clearly feel that would be something they're fine with. But, I think realistically they'll have all fingers crossed that Sol Brynn is fine and gets through the season. No complications.
Yeah, me too. I'll be slightly worried about that for the running, but leave it to the big wigs to get the decisions right. So tomorrow, Craig, just to clarify, you're expecting movement, but you're probably thinking more out than ins.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we hear quite a few names, whether they're legit or not. Agents will be wanting their players' names out there as well. So, I think everyone knows Middlesbrough want a striker, and they're going to be working flat out to try and get one in. But whether or not one comes off for them or not remains to be seen. I'm not so certain. Wouldn't say I'm confident on that, but yeah, I am confident that they'll be working hard to try and do it.
Right. Thanks very much, Craig. Games coming up, Cuts. 2 Monday night games. Sheffield United away, Coventry away, followed by Oxford at home and Leicester at home are the games for February. Just for listeners and viewers for this podcast, because the next 2 games are Monday night away games at Coventry and Sheffield United, the next podcasts will be on Tuesdays. So that's the next podcast will be on Tuesday, February the 10th, and then the following Tuesday after that, after the Sheffield United game on the Monday and the Coventry game on the Monday. Just in case you're looking forward, there'll be no podcasts until the following Tuesdays. So, table cuts. Middlesbrough are sitting joint top now with Coventry, 58 points. Hull, 53 points in third, 29 games played. And Ipswich are now fourth, 51 points, 29 games played. Next 4 games. What's going to be a respectable points total from the next 4?
I think if you take 9 out of 12, I think we'd probably all take that right now. I think if you look at us this season, we haven't drawn that many games. And I always say you're better to win one and lose one than draw 2 games, because ultimately you get more points. And I think Kim realises that, and it's vital in this. But yeah, I'd take 9 out of 12.
Bandy, would you take out the next 4 games? Sheffield United away, Coventry away, Oxford at home, Leicester at home?
Got to aim for 12, but I'd be comfortable with 9. I'd be happy with 9. And like John says, Hellberg goes hell for leather to get the wins, not draw. I don't think we've gone into any game this season looking to snatch a point. I think we're going to go there, going to go to Coventry, we're going to go to Bramall Lane, we're going to try and win the game. And we're capable of doing that. We've got the best away record in the league, or across all the leagues in terms of points accumulated. I think that's probably down to the fact that we can sit in and then counter on teams as opposed to trying to break down a low block. So it bodes well. I'm quite happy that we've got 2 tough away games because we can handle it. We've proven it all season. So we've proven that we're not going to leak too many goals. So I don't think we're going to get turned over in many games between now and the end of the season. And we've proven that we can win in different ways, i.e. yesterday against Norwich. We dug in, we ground it out. It was a wonder goal that separated 2 teams that were parity on the day, really. But we've also gone to places and blown teams away comfortably. So I'm very, very confident that we can stay in that top 2. I've maintained that stance all season, really, since Edwards came in and bolstered that defence. I think we've got a lot to thank him for, really, as well. I know he's a bit of a rat and he disappeared, but to have that bedrock at the start of that season, Hellberg's come in, he's fine-tuned us, and we look an absolute motor now.
Craig, I said yesterday to producer Sophie, I said if Middlesbrough beat Sheffield United away and Coventry away, because of our home form and the way the stadium's going to be from now to the end of the season, I think Middlesbrough are promoted.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to think if they get through those 2 tough away games and have 6 points from them, they'd be in a fantastic position then, wouldn't it, to go and win promotion. Still got to go to Ipswich away. I'm sure there's still going to be twists and turns in the next 16 games. But I mean, if you put the points tally on what you'd want from the next 4, I think spot on the lads. You're going to go in to win every game. You're going to have the confidence and belief to win every game. I think I'd take 8. I think you win your 2 home games, but then I think Sheffield United are hit and miss this season, but normally hit at home. And Coventry, I think you go to Coventry, you aim to win, and they're obviously having an almighty wobble, but mainly on the road, tend to be good at home as well. And I think just in that game, just don't lose. You don't want to give your
Yeah.
promotion rival 3
I agree.
points. So I think if you go there and get a draw, I think you'll take that. Obviously, you want the win, of course you do, and we should believe this team are more than capable of going to both grounds and getting a win. But I think if you come away from those 2 tough games with draws, then I think you can take positives from that.
I agree, totally agree, Craig. Listen, guys, what we'll do is, because going into the last 15 minutes, we'll get some fans questions to you. See if you can answer them. I'll start with you, Graham, from Neil Baker. Best full 90 minutes of the season. Also, how frustrating for the opposition must it be when the team is released and no one has the foggiest what formation we're going to start with? Hellberg is a genius.
Good question. Craig will allude to this. We were having a little Twitter chat last week, weren't we, Craig, regarding formations, whether it was a 4-3-3, a 3-4-3. It's so interchangeable during games, and players know that now. So it is interesting that we can pretty much change tactic 15 minutes into a game. But yeah, it must be a nightmare for opposition players and the manager. We saw last week against Preston where Heckingbottom had to quickly shuffle his pack, because he made his keeper go down injured, so he'd get his players across to basically tell them to change system quickly because it wasn't working for them. So, yeah, it's a great trait to have, and that's the genius of Kim Hellberg, I guess.
And next question was Paul of Boro. Pointless asking one, to be honest, pal, because you only read out your pal's questions. Cheers. So, Paul, you're not me pal. I don't know who you are, and I've read your question out. But the good news is, if you put a good question in and a sensible question in, I'll read it out next week. Good lad. Cuts, I'll come to you. Davy Ray. Is Hackney going to be the best player ever from the Boro area? I know he has a long way to go to reach the other greats, but is his ceiling higher than any other player?
Stuart went on to have a really good career and a good career for us down in, didn't he? Woodgate's another one from the area. I know he didn't start with us. I'm not sure. It's a tough question. He's still got a long way to go, Hayden. I think he can only get better, and if he gets much better than this, whether it's with us or not, he is going to be plying his trade in the Premier League. I was thinking earlier when you were on, but he was linked with being Scottish, wasn't he, and going to the World Cup. How have they not capped him and tried to stop him from getting in the England squad? It's crazy. There can't be many better midfielders that are Scottish than him. I can only think of John McGinn's a good player at Villa. Who else have they got that's better than him? It's mental that he's not getting caps for them.
McTominay.
Well, yeah. Well, Hackney'd get in with them too, wouldn't he? That'd be a decent midfield for Scotland. But to be fair, I think one of my good pals, Jono, put a good tweet out yesterday saying, how far off the England squad would he be? Now, whether they'd put someone who's playing in the Championship as a potential World Cup player, but he's up there with Wharton does well, doesn't he? But surely he should have been in a squad, you'd have thought by now.
I remember many years ago, Harry Redknapp spoke to the press regarding Frank Lampard. I think Frank was 17, 18 at the time. And he said, this kid is going to go to the very, very top. And none of the press sort of believed that. And obviously he did. I'm not saying Hackney's that level, but he can't be far off at that age.
Cuts, you just alluded to John's question, so I'll bring Bandy in. What John said was, would anyone on the panel pick Jordan Henderson for England ahead of Hayden Hackney? Other than Declan Rice, are there many better English midfielders? Scott, Wharton, Anderson, all in the mix. What he's trying to say is Hayden Hackney good enough for the England squad? This is for you, Graham.
Oh, sorry.
I thought
is he good enough?
I thought you were pondering your genius reply.
No, I was looking at Cuts thinking, why isn't he answering? Sorry, I must be going deaf here. See his dodgy headphones. Is he good enough for the England squad? Yes, he is, but not quite yet. There's better players, I think, who've got a little bit more experience and a bit more longevity, namely Anderson, who's been terrific for Forest, Wharton, who's an absolute class act. He's a quality player. He's going to leave Palace at some stage and go on to a bigger and better team and achieve many great things in the game. So Wharton and Anderson are ahead of him. Henderson, his career's going south quickly. However, he does have that vital experience. I can understand why Tuchel might put him in the squad, but for me, if you want to be a risk taker and gamble on things, then Hackney's probably a good inclusion, but not quite yet. Maybe in a year's time we'll be saying, God, we should have put Hackney in the England squad a lot sooner, because he's destined for the very top, 100%. He'll leave Boro at some stage, sadly, You've got to face reality. Hopefully he's in the Premier League with us for a few years and we do quite well. But I think he'll go on to a top 8 Premier League team and play every single week. And that's when you'll see his England caps accumulate quite quickly.
Craig, I'll bring you on Hayden Hackney. Do you think he's good? He's a future England player, or do you think he's like Cuts was saying? Why didn't he play for Scotland? He's good enough for a Scotland international side. What's Hayden Hackney's sort of ceiling? What do you think? I mean, you said before, is he Middlesbrough's greatest ever academy product? I think he's going to be going a long way to catch Stuart Downing, for example. But how good could Hayden Hackney be?
Yeah, I mean, all being well, all continues on the current trajectory. I see him like Bandy, top 8, top 6 Premier League team regular in time. I think it's only a matter of time before someone like that picks him up. If Middlesbrough don't get up this summer, and fingers crossed they do, if Michael Carrick continues the way he is at Manchester United, I would not be surprised one little bit if that's where he ends up next season. Hopefully not. Hopefully Middlesbrough are in the Premier League with Hayden Hackney, but that would not surprise me because it's no secret how high Michael Carrick rated him. So if he got that job permanently, I could see that, and I could see him going into that side, right away, really. I think they don't have a player like Hayden Hackney. They're losing Casemiro in the summer. I know you'd see it. Man United fans currently will be saying we need a defensive midfielder, but we know from Michael Carrick's time at Middlesbrough that he doesn't play with defensive midfielders. He doesn't like them. He wants midfielders like Hayden Hackney, so I could definitely see that happening. But yeah, I think he will go right to the top as long as he avoids any serious injuries or anything like that. In terms of Scotland, why haven't Scotland captained him? Just to go back to Cuts' kind of question, it's not for the want to try, and let's put it that way. I think Hayden's quite confident about where he's going and his own trajectory as well. So,
Craig, I'll come to you on a question from Aflac. He's asking, what do Middlesbrough fans need to watch before the window closes? What's a couple of big things to watch before the window closes that may or may not happen?
Yes, I think it's that striker one, really. I think that's the big one. Obviously, they're going to want a striker. You're going to see names, touted out, no doubt. If I was a betting man, I think the most realistic one tomorrow will be Armstrong or Archer. It would not surprise me one little bit if Southampton say, look, we're not giving you Armstrong, but Archer's available. And the bite on that, as I say, providing he hasn't already made his mind up on Rangers, and hopefully the temptation to rejoin Middlesbrough after a good loan spell, could entice him and could keep him in England as well. So yeah, I think those would be the two in terms of incomings to watch. I could see one of those two coming off because clearly Southampton and Middlesbrough are in talks, and for whatever reason, leaving both out yesterday, Southampton seem like they are willing to let one go. It's all about the finances of a deal on either case, to be honest. And then, outgoings, I think we know the names. We've mentioned them earlier in the pod. There's Middlesbrough are going to want to have at least one, but probably 2 or 3 out the door tomorrow if possible.
Did you see Wrexham were in the mix for Armstrong?
I did say that.
If he moved on somewhere, I think Wrexham would throw some money at that and give it a go.
I mean, interestingly, because all the noise is that he'd prefer to move closer to home, and that's why Middlesbrough is so appealing to him. But interestingly, I've heard America as well. I've heard a move to the MLS could be on the cards, which obviously, I mean, that could go beyond tomorrow. Obviously, if he doesn't move tomorrow because their window's still open. But I mean, that would be a strange one because it's even further away from home than Southampton. Yeah, we'll see. I think that my thing with Armstrong, I mean, no doubt about it, he'd probably come in, score you goals and help you get up. But he's 29 next month, or this month now. It's February now, isn't it? And he's never, ever yet done it in the Premier League and probably never will. I know, initially you just want to get there. Don't worry about the Premier League until you're in the Premier League. But, if you're spending a lot of money on Adam Armstrong and he gets you up, you've then got a striker. You've paid a lot of money for a striker who isn't going to cut it. So you're going to then need another striker in the summer. We saw with Sunderland this season, you need a lot of money Yeah, it's all well and good that you get a lot of money in the Premier League, but you need so much more to be able to spend and improve your squad because the gulf between the Championship and the Premier League is huge. So there's that consideration, but then the other consideration is, unfortunately, there's just no guarantee. Adam Armstrong could come in, be a success, score 10 goals, but in 10-2-1 defeats, and Middlesbrough don't go up, and suddenly they've paid a hell of a lot of money for a striker. They haven't gone up, and then suddenly there has to be a fire sale in the summer without the money to then replace them, because the fire sale in the summer is ultimately making up for the big money that you spent in January. So they're the kind of considerations Middlesbrough are going to have. How big a gamble do they take tomorrow? I was seen recently with Hull a couple of years ago. They went big in that January under a senior, didn't they? And I think only finished 7th in the end. There was a lot more risk in that, because I mean, even if they had got in the playoffs that year, like there were Leeds and Southampton were the two teams who made the playoffs that year. They're even making the playoffs. It was going to be tough to win promotion. So there's less of a gamble, less risk with Boro because of how good a position they're currently in, but it's nevertheless still a gamble. And if it didn't pay off, then suddenly in the summer you leave yourself in the Championship with not a lot of money to spend. That's the one big risk, I think, for Middlesbrough.
Cuts.
I think one thing about that is, though, under previous managers, when we've been in a similar position to where we are now, 1 January, I think it was Armstrong, Branca, Rickard. Then we went out and got Jordan Rhodes under Karanka, which pushed us over the line. And even if you sign someone like Armstrong, for the money that you're going to generate for getting promoted, hopefully if it goes that way, the outlay won't matter, because then you could probably sell him back to the Championship for a similar fee. Alternatively, if we don't go up, he's guaranteeing you goals next season. I'd be very, very surprised if Gibson doesn't pull something out of his pocket tomorrow. I'd be amazed anyway.
I think it's common knowledge that Steve's not a fan of agents, is he? And if Armstrong's agent's trying it on, then I can see Gibson not entertaining that one. However, time's a good healer, and if the agent comes back with a more realistic price, because like you mentioned, Craig, we've seen some ridiculous figures there between 7 and 12, 13, 14, even 15 million. I mean, that's nonsensical. That's a massive risk for a 29-year-old player. However, if we can bring it down to maybe 3 or 4, I think we could possibly punt on that.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, but there was a question and answer with Chris Wilder a couple of years back, and I asked him a question about Adam Armstrong, and he said it's a player that of someone of that quality, it's a player that we've shown interest in. And I'm sure when he went on loan to West Brom Albion, didn't we inquire about him then as well?
So it was the other way around. I think it was, again, Middlesbrough were looking for a striker, and the agent again got in touch and said, like, look, Armstrong could be available. Do you want to? The problem was they were well down the line with Iheanacho at that point. And from memory, I'm going back, I think it was deadline day. They got in touch and said Armstrong could be available, but when they asked Southampton said, you need to pay 100% of the wages, which at the time were Premier League wages. Boro had a really good deal in place for Iheanacho. I know it didn't work out. We all know how that one went. But from memory, I think they only paid 30 to 40% of Iheanacho's wage at Seville. So they felt at the time they were getting a good deal with Iheanacho. Carrick had obviously got all these positive character references, which we all know about, we've all heard about on Iheanacho. And in the end, he went to West Brom. He didn't actually do too well at West Brom, did he? But I think they got him on a really cut price deal, but it went through from memory. I think it was like maybe even the next year after deadline day that it was announced, because it was so late in the day that West Brom eventually got him, because they held the nerve and assumed that Southampton would bring down their asking price. At the time, Boro couldn't afford to do that, because the new Latilaf was going and they had to get someone in. So that's why they didn't bite on it and they went with Iheanacho. Now, Middlesbrough are not in a place of desperation. I don't think they need a striker. They just like one. So tomorrow, perhaps we see the same again. Perhaps Southampton hold out until the very last minute and then suddenly say, do you know what? Yeah. But the suggestions seem to be that Southampton want to get at least one of Archer and Armstrong out so they can bring the road striker in. So I suspect they're not going to want to leave it until so late in the day tomorrow. But yeah, nothing ceases to amaze on transfer deadline day.
Do you know if they've got someone lined up to come in to replace either Armstrong or Archer?
I've not seen so, but the fact
almost
that
like a house sale.
Yeah, the fact that they seem keen, they've left them out yesterday, I suspect that, because for me, there's no logical reason why, particularly Armstrong. I mean, Archer's barely played, which for me is a real surprise, but Armstrong's played pretty much every game. He captains them, he scored 11 goals. I remember, I mean, he was completely marked out of the game by Melander a couple of weeks ago at the Riverside, wasn't he? But in the game down at their place earlier in the season, I thought he was best player on the pitch. I thought he was superb that day, and he scored a superb goal, which just gives you an idea of what he'd offer, if he did get into this team, into this Boro team. So from that point of view, I can't understand why Southampton want rid, unless it's a case of, they're just well aware that he's desperate to leave now. He wants to leave, and no club really wants to keep an unhappy player. That's the reality of it, because it impacts the dressing room. But you'd think, surely, if they're even entertaining it and they're leaving him out of the squad yesterday, they must have somebody in mind who they want to move on.
Yeah, I think so. So something might happen there.
Guys, we're running out of time, so I'm going to 2 quick questions and before we finish. One word answer for this one, because Paul78 and Dr. Nodge has asked the same question. Cuts, do we need a striker, yes or no?
Yes.
Craig Johns, striker, yes or no?
They'd like one, it'd be ideal, but they don't need one, I don't think.
Bandy, do we need a striker, yes or no? I'll go with Cuts and say yes, so it's 2 apiece. And last question, because I thought it was a good question, from, if I can find him. Oh, I can't even find where it's gone now. Oh yes, Steve Trodden. Steve Trodden was asking, because of Hayden Hackney's brilliant goal yesterday, what's the best screamer you've seen at the Riverside? Come to you, Cuts.
Best what?
Screamer of a goal. Wrong Ranger, Rocket. First one that comes to your mind.
Luke Young, Tottenham.
Brilliant shout. I was going to say that one. Brilliant shout. Bandy?
Hignett, where Alistair Brownlee shouts, "Hit it, Higgy," and he rifles it in.
Reading. That's it, Reading, yeah.
4-0, I think.
I'll say Emerson against Hereford in the Cup when he done the dance. Craig, best screamer you've seen from a Boro player?
I've had a complete mind blank. I've only obviously been doing it 5 seasons, only been covering games 5 seasons, and God, I can't think of many better than Hackney's yesterday, to be fair.
Hackney tops the bill for
up
Craig.
there now, without a doubt. To be
It's
fair,
in
we
there.
haven't scored that many. Nobody shoots. It's amazing what happens when you actually shoot, isn't it? The ball could actually go in the net.
Apart from Aidan Morris. There was a moment yesterday where the crowd shouted shoot when he had the ball, and he did, but it trickled into the goalkeeper's arms. I'm thinking, God, don't cry for Aidan Morris to shoot.
I was shouting no, pass it at the time, yeah.
Brilliant player, but yeah, just don't shoot.
Yeah, class act. He's hit form. Right, they're good at the right time as well. Quality.
Craig, just want to thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, lads. Enjoy it as always.
Brilliant.
Legend.
Cuts, Bandy,
Cheers, Craig.
pleasure again. Thanks for
Class,
coming on.
loved it.
Remember, Boro fans, we're going to be back on Tuesday, the 10th of February, because the next game's against Sheffield United on the Monday. Right, remember, don't say Typical Boro. Watch it, listen to it, and we'll be back to see you soon. Up the Boro.
Up the Boro.